Dating nowadays has never been so much easier, right? Download an app, swipe left, swipe right, chat a little, get a little bit flirty, have a crack on or move on to the next. If you're lucky, pick a date in the calendar, meet up. Like, what's the real fuss? Just kidding. I know dating right now can be quite challenging. And today on this little segment of the Unfltered Podcast, I'm going to get into the one thing you must start doing to have more success when it comes to dating. But before I go any further, look, I've said it before in regards to the unfiltered nature of this podcast. If you're a fan and you haven't already, could you please hit that subscribe button? It goes a long way for me in regards to, again, bringing in the right guests, having the right topics, and ensuring that I'm putting out the right energy that you want to be taking on board, whether you listen to this on the Spotify, the Apple Podcasts, if you're watching this on YouTube or any other podcasting stream. It goes a long way for me. So if you could, that'd be much appreciated. Right, back to the episode. So why is dating a challenge right now? Because quite frankly, you are an option. And if we're going down the dating app route, one bad starter photo or a terrible prompt will increase the chances of you being X'd off immediately. Like, they're not even going to give you the time of day. Sad, I know. You're probably thinking they didn't even get to that last video on your profile where you're out there doing some sort of karaoke or something quite cool, and it's just a case of, yeah, they're not interested. But that's the dating app culture, isn't it? If there isn't anything about you which stands out, which makes someone go, wow, damn, okay, likelihood is you're not really going to get far. So what do all single people do then? Delete apps, and then a week later, re-download them. Go speak to our friends and our family in regards to what they could possibly do about the scenario. Do they know anyone? Maybe you test your luck and you go to a speed dating event. But what if I said to you right now, there is one thing you are not doing, which isn't helping your success rate when it comes to dating? Like, it's super obvious. It's that super obvious. It's probably something you're not actually doing, which possibly if you started doing, your chances of having better dates would definitely improve. It's that obvious that everyone who wants a long-term relationship wants this from the offset. Yet, so many of us just don't do it. In my personal opinion, you've probably heard this before, the one thing you should be doing right now when it comes to dating is just being honest. Trust me when I say being honest leads to such better outcomes. Your dating experience will feel so much more liberated because you'll spend, and I'm hoping you'll spend less time with time wasters, and you'll get much closer to the ones who generally want something quite similar to you. Let me dig a little bit deeper. Let's look at your dating profile right now. Yes, if you've got the app, let's have a little look at it. Open it up. How many of you have got your most recent photos on your dating profile right now? I'm talking about photos that are taken within the last 6 months. Maybe we can stretch it to a year. I guarantee you someone listening to this or watching this right now has a photo of themselves 2-3 years ago. Maybe it's that bikini photo of when you looked a little bit in good shape. Or fellas, maybe it's that photo where you were a bit ripped or you went through that cut phase, or generally you were just looking your best self. Yet you and I know you don't look anything like that anymore. So tell me, why are you presenting yourself in a way which is clearly not you in the current state? Why are you projecting someone you're not anymore? That might have been you, but it's not you right now. Be honest with how you look. If people don't like it, cool, that's okay. Let's stop chasing validation and just be true with who you are. Believe me when I say this, when someone likes a photo of what you look like right now, it's going to feel so much better because, hang on a minute, they actually like me for how I look right now. Like, this isn't a problem. This is actually okay. This is actually attractive. That's a big, big game changer, right? Versus someone you were 2-3 years ago. If you like me for what I look like right now, we might be heading down the right direction. Like in my case, if you're trialing out a new haircut, which I'm not, it's just the same old stuff, but maybe you've got a new piercing or you've changed a new piercing. Now it's the hoop versus the stud. Maybe you've been bulking in the gym and you know you're going to be putting on some excess more weight because that's your goal. Like, let someone vibe with that version of you versus you showing an audience what you think they want to see. Dating apps is very much a swipe culture. People are essentially swiping right based on appearance, and if they read your bio, whatever few words you have there, you wouldn't want to match with someone who looks nothing like their photos. Am I right? Like, you generally wouldn't want to match with someone who looks nothing like their photos. You hate the concept of someone catfishing you. So if you're the one catfishing them, like, you got to make it make sense. Stop putting out false images of yourself and be honest with who you are right now. And if you're not a photo person, I get that. Take a selfie then and post that photo. You might get loads of matches or you might get very few. Be honest, and I'll reiterate this over and over again. You'll feel so much better when someone clicks on that heart button or swipes right for how you look right now versus how you used to look way back when. Let me give you another example, because it's not always about looks, as you know, on dating apps. Well, sometimes it is, but that's a story for another day. Let's talk about your intentions, all right? You right now want to be in a relationship. Yet we live in a world where there's this talk of, I'm very much going with the flow. Like that kind of vibe, that kind of jazz is going around, right? I'm not rushing it. I'm wanting to connect with the right one. Respectfully, are you being honest when you say this? Because from what I hear, we've got people saying, I want to go with the flow. And really and truly, they've just come out of a relationship and they just want some company right now. Maybe they just want some short-term fun. That's not a problem for the right person. If you're honest about your situation, the other person on the receiving end can either facilitate that or politely and respectfully say, this isn't for me. And we keep it moving. We've got some people out here who say they want to take their time and really get to know someone. But deep down, they really want that relationship. And they do want to accelerate that process where marriage is in the cards in the near future. And maybe they can start working towards a family. Like those are their intentions. But because they don't want to scare people off, they restrict what they say. Like all of this stuff naturally causes a mess, especially when you start getting to know someone and you realize your wavelengths are completely opposite. You want one thing, they want something else. It just doesn't make sense. So if you're honest from the offset about your intentions and what you're really looking for, what's going to happen? What's going to happen in regards to your success rate in dating and finding suitable partners that you kind of want to spend majority of your time with in terms of getting to know? Like some people generally feel, and I've had this in conversations, I'm probably going to scare them away, Pri, if I tell them all I want to do is just get married within the next few years. Yeah, you might scare a few people away. You might scare me away. But realistically, maybe I'm not the type of person you want to be with. Maybe I'm not the type of person you really want to get to know over a longer period of time, because we might be on two different wavelengths. But someone is going to resonate with this information and is going to be like, oh my God, you're in the same boat as me. It just makes things so much more easier. How does that conversation sound with that person who is exactly on the same wavelength as you? I've had conversations with coaching clients where they've said to me, Pri, this person that I'm dating, they say they want a life partner and a relationship, but their energy is completely off. They're too busy to hold a conversation. Their careers mean a lot to them. Cool. Okay. That's not what you're looking for, right? You want someone with a bit more consistent energy, someone who really wants to go out of their way to try and get to know you as much as you really want to go out your way to get to know them. So if you haven't already, elaborate where you're coming from, elaborate what you're really looking for. And if they don't get the picture and if they don't get the message, keep it moving. People will hit me up and say, Pri, I've tried this outcome over and over again. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say hypothetically, you matched Jay. Maybe you've been on a date or you've been on a few with Jay, who's come around and told you they're not looking for anything serious. You right now are fuming because you spent so much time trying to get to know them. And it's a case of starting again and going back to the drawing board. My question is, when you matched Jay, were you honest from the offset? Because you might turn around and say to me, oh, Pri, I asked all these questions. Genuinely, I asked all these questions. Part of me thinks maybe you find out some answers from these questions. You might block out some of the answers, hence why you've jumped straight in. You might need to put your hands up if this is you right now. Maybe it's a case of you purposely ignored some of the answers because you were just excited by the prospects of possibly starting this new chapter of life. But if they were honest with you from the offset, then are you slightly in the wrong too? And maybe it's none of that. You've done all of this stuff. You're asking all the questions. You've made it very clear what your intentions are and you feel like you've got it from them. Maybe there's a different way you need to ask these questions and you need to structure that out. And that could be something where we talk about it on a separate day. Maybe you hit me up and you tell me exactly what the challenges you're going through in regards to this initial opening stage of dating, and I might be able to pass you on some extra little bits of advice. But I genuinely think sometimes in this phase, people say, I've tried this, and I'm like, if it keeps happening, it means that you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you're getting the same results. So you need to try something completely different. And it sounds like you're not doing anything different, which then tells me, are you really adopting your strategy in regards to getting to know someone and making sure you're actually aligned? Are you actually being completely honest and transparent? And are you offering them a space to be honest and transparent? Or are you coming across as quite judgmental, quite rude, and quite like stuck in your ways where it's a case of it's a bit difficult for them to possibly be open and honest with you? Some of you might think I'm being a bit harsh right now. Maybe I'm hitting home. There are a number of reasons why you found out 3 dates later they just wanted some short-term fun, a companion. Maybe they were healing. Maybe they were really into someone else. But honestly, take this moment right now to ask yourself the question, were you honest with all the cards you laid out? Let me give you some more things to think about. When you were speaking to Jay, let's just go back to that situation. Were you honest about what you do for work, what you studied? Were you honest about what you're looking for in a partner? Were you honest about your likes and your dislikes? Were you honest about your future plans? Maybe it's yes to all of these. You don't have to say this to me. I've done all of that. Let me get a bit deeper with you. Were you honest about your fears? What about your values and where you come from? Your family dynamics? What about your beliefs and views on life? What about your beliefs and views on marriage and relationships and kids? Like, were you completely honest in regards to the boundaries you won't tolerate? Were you honest about your history if they prompted or asked any questions? Were you honest about how confident you really are when it comes to dating? Were you honest in regards to the fact that you've got some mental health struggles right now you're dealing with, you're trying to work through? You can appreciate you're not 100%. Like, were they aware of something's going on behind the scenes right now? Were you honest that you've recently just come over a period of healing? Or maybe you still are. Were you honest about the fact that you're still grieving? Were you honest about your financial worries, the way the economy is moving, or your situation in regards to your career? Or were you honest to like how committed you are to living in a certain area, or if you wanted to travel the world and set up shop in another country one day? And if you're telling me right now and say yes to all of those questions, maybe you really want to tune into how honest you really were in these scenarios. Because there could be a reason right now why you generally are falling into the trap of dating the wrong person. Maybe you are honest. Maybe you are being completely transparent. You might just be saying yes to anyone as well, though. Let me lay out a few scenarios for you just to think about and deep a little. And let's look at the possible outcomes. So I've got written down here. You basically told them everything, very honest from the offset, what you were looking for, etc. Right? You've said this all to Jay. The possible outcomes that could arise. Jay might think you're too much for them. Okay, cool. So let's move on. Jay might realize you both want different things. Okay, cool. So let's move on. Jay might realize you deserve better. Okay, fine. Let's move on. Jay might realize they can't be honest with you. It's difficult for them. All right, I can appreciate that. Let's move on then. Jay might realize that the way your lifestyles are, your values, your cultural backgrounds, whatever it is, you're just not going to vibe off each other. Okay, cool. So let's move on. How many of you are actually moving on? How many of you are still trying to make it work? Be honest with yourself when I ask that question. If you have trust issues, shouldn't you let the other person know? If you've been cheated on, if you've been unfaithful, should you let the other person know? If you're honest and they're like, that's not a bit of me, like I'm a bit worried, like it saves any hassle later down the line, right? If you tell someone your icks, or if you tell them the things that give you butterflies, someone's going to find it cringe. Someone's going to find it adorable. You're not here to please everyone. But being honest, give yourself the best chance to actually get that energy back from someone who generally vibes with what you're putting out there. The big trouble in all of this is that so many of us fear judgment and something that we don't want to work on. So when you don't want to work on this fear of judgment, this fear of rejection, we're worried we're not going to get matches because people are going to look at us and think, ew, that's not a bit of me. Or they're going to match, communicate and think, wow, that's a bit too much. What you're telling me right now is you're worried that if you showcase the real you, you're not going to come across as attractive. Like opening up might put people off and they'll walk away. My comment to that is good riddance. I wish you all the best, like you should really be speaking to the right person right now. And that's not me. I don't want to be with someone who truly doesn't get me, someone who doesn't truly value like what I bring to the table, how I'm looking right now and can't appreciate that I'm doing X, Y, and Z for whatever reason. I might have a medical thing going on right now. That's not on me. It's just how my body works. It could be a case where I am a bit overweight because I've been injured, but that's okay. I don't need to portray a version of me when I was completely fine. Like, do you understand where I'm coming from? I've said it a lot on this podcast, maybe on other seasons. Appreciate me for who I am. And if you don't, that's totally cool. We can keep it moving. And I feel like if you lot approach dating with that same energy, yes, it's going to seem like a bit of a headache or when you realize that you're possibly not speaking to as many people as you possibly could be speaking to and giving someone that time of day. But when you break it down, you're possibly going to then entertain conversations which are more better suited for you, and then start dating people who are more better suited for you, because you've taken everyone who's not really serving it up for you the way you want dating to work out for you. You've taken that, you've thrown it that way. And right now you're in a position where you're encouraging people and now speaking to people and connecting with people who generally vibe with exactly, or if not similar, things that you want in a relationship moving forward. If any of that don't make sense, you got to hit me up. You got to let me know what's going on. But I guarantee you, being honest will change up the dating experience for you big time. It sounds so simple, but how many of you are actually being honest? And I'm going to stop saying that there. But yeah, if this hit home and you think, I want to dive into this a bit more, you know what you got to do. You got to reach out to me, drop me a DM, send me a message, get in touch with me in regards to the challenges you're facing when it comes to dating and this possible approach that you're trying and it's not working or whatever. Let me know and let's see what we can do. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this segment of dating and hopefully it helps you in your current scenarios. It's been your boy Pri, and yeah, this is the Unfltered Podcast, and I'm signing out. Peace.